Welcome to What Property Managers Do podcast, the show where we dive into the world of multifamily real estate, featuring the investors, property owners, and the industry experts who are shaping the future and the past of our housing market. I'm Joel Beach, and in each episode, we'll bring you the insights, the strategies, and success stories to kind of help you manage and maximize your rental income, streamline your operations, and build a thriving real estate portfolio without the headaches of property management. Whether you own a rental property, a duplex, a fourplex, or a big apartment portfolio, this podcast is for you. Today we have an exciting guest who will share their journey, the lessons they've learned, and what's working and what they've learned in the real estate rental market. So sit back, take some notes, and let's get started. Well, today we'd like to welcome Mark Schultz. He's an investor that we met, and he has some pretty good messages, and I'm really excited to have him on. Mark, thanks for coming on.
Okay, good to talk to you.
Sure. So let's just jump in. How did you get started in rentals and in real estate properties?
Background with my in-laws in the Bay Area in California. They had a number of rentals, and my wife and I helped them do certain things, yard work, some electrical stuff and stuff like that. Not being invested in their activities, but learning, because I had never done it before. The house we were living in Hayward, we got a substantial payback on it. We bought it for like $147 and sold it for $645, roughly. Well, I don't know how many years, from 20 something years where we lived there. So we got our return was sizable. We didn't want to pay capital gains, so we had kids that were living up in northern Utah in the Ogden area. So we got up here. We had already purchased a rental for our kids to live in because they always complained about the rent increases they were getting. So we bought a rental, and then subsequently bought another really nice house in the historic district here in Ogden. And then in order to utilize our proceeds from the sale of our house, we bought rental properties. Not really doing due diligence on them. We were just going to purchase properties and manage them, and everything was going to be perfect. Didn't exactly work out that way. Made some mistakes. Didn't have my father-in-law around to tell me what to do. But at one time we had 32 tenants, an 8-plex apartment, a 4-plex apartment, and 5 houses.
Well, let me ask you, what a good background. You had that house, and you had you had that moment, and you kind of capitalized on it. And so tell us a couple strategies you used to kind of help build that portfolio.
Well, back, around 2002, the rental market, the housing market in Ogden was pretty lean, and you could buy things not relatively cheap, but really cheap. And so we didn't do enough background and due diligence to make sure that our investments were going to pan out. We bought a couple of homes that just needed way more work than we thought, and I was doing a lot of it. And then if it got structural or something like that, we'd have to hire out and get professional guys. So on hindsight, there would have thought a lot more about what we were getting into.
Awesome.
It was
So, I mean, yeah, well, you managed them yourself. So why don't you, can you tell us some of the challenges you faced when you were managing these properties that you purchased?
the biggest challenge, especially with apartments, was tenant turnover, where with the homes, people had more money and were more stable, but apartments were uh, fairly undependable. You didn't know. You'd have them with a year lease, but then evictions were more commonplace in apartments. So we never had a property manager on that. I handled it myself, but it was problematic. That was the biggest challenge. Maintenance, not so much, because there's a lot of things I could do, the painting, the carpeting, the plumbing, stuff like that. I could do that stuff. But if it was a house and it was a roof repair or rain gutters or something like that, yeah, it went into your bottom line.
Um, Tell me about the midnight calls.
Well, as a property owner, you are never on vacation, or you are always on vacation. It just depends. It could be it could be a few months and everything just goes fine, and then it comes around Thanksgiving time or something, and people have clogged their drains and need a plumber, or got at all hours it's backed up and it's flooding, and so yeah,
I gotcha.
that's the problem, is that you never really know for sure if anything's going to happen or not.
Well, what can you tell us kind of what you did to be sure your places were occupied and that the tenants were happy? What kind of strategies did you learn over the time you were managing those units?
Initially, 20 25 years ago, a lot of it was word of mouth. People would say, "Hey, do you have something? I've got a daughter that's looking for a place. Do you?" Or we put a for rent sign out in front, which didn't attract the best clientele. We subsequently ended up going with, uh, excuse me, um, agencies like Rentler that do background checks and all that stuff to make sure there weren't evictions, um, problems in that regard. But initially, 20 something years ago, it was all put a sign out. There was really no strategy, sorry to say.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fine. Well, I think no
uh,
strategy is something that maybe people would learn from. So I know we've talked about property maintenance before, but can you go back and just kind of tell us some strategies you had with maintenance and ways that you kind of reduced operating costs?
uh, yes, I was able to do like carpeting and painting, minor plumbing and stuff like that. I did it all myself. It was almost too much when we had as many as 30 something tenants. So if there was a redo on an apartment, you figure 5 days, you get everything all done and back to speed, which keeps you from doing other stuff. So yeah, I if you have that many, you need somebody you could rely on to help out. Don't try to do everything yourself. It
Gotcha. Gotcha.
burns you out. Uh, in that regard, though, if you're on the cusp of buying properties and managing them, get a good tax guy, CPA, get an LLC to start off with, just to keep yourself free from legal implications. So strategy wise is if I could do it, I did it. If I couldn't, I'd pay for it. Um, and there's no getting around that.
Gotcha. So, now you've been through the battles and now you're kind of watching things. Um, what what kind of trends are you seeing that are kind of shaping the market nowadays, just based on your experience?
There's a tremendous amount of growth here in northern Utah, well, especially in Ogden, where they're just building like everywhere. And so if you have older properties, you can't really charge as much as these new ones, which can be in excess of $2,000 a month, which is essentially a house payment to rent. So my properties that were always older and cheaper. So I couldn't realistically charge as much for a home if it's older.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have to gauge that
Gotcha.
to, just for the market.
Right.
And I had other not realtors, but property managers and landlords that we would trade information. That's a good idea to have also. Know other people. They could call you and say, hey, do you have something? Well, I will in a month. Or I could call them and say, what have you got? So word of mouth, a kind of a marketing thing is helpful also.
Gotcha. So your final advice, why don't you give us some highlights of what you would tell somebody that's just looking to start or looking to scale up? And you've dropped a few very important things, but what's your final advice to new investors?
Start slowly. Start with one or two, maybe a duplex. See and get it established so that you learn. Oh yeah, before we buy any more properties, let's make sure this works. That would be my best advice. It's just start slowly. If you do buy like an apartment complex, get a property manager to help you with leases and evictions and stuff like that. Otherwise, just test the waters, and grow gradually. My best advice, being a little bit more advanced in age now, is old age and treachery will overcome youth and skill every time.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate
Okay.
you taking the time here. Um, so yeah, tell us what you're up to nowadays. How would someone get a hold of you if they had any questions or needed some specific advice? Where would
Well,
they
I'm
find
up
you?
here in Ogden in the historic district on 23rd. Mark Schultz. We don't have our LLC anymore just because my tax CPA said you're established, we've reduced the amount of rentals and stuff we've had. It's just homes now. And it's well established. So yeah, we don't have the LLC anymore, but it's working.
Yeah,
It's working.
sounds good. I see those fishing poles on the wall there. Maybe they could find you out on the Ogden River. And
Yeah, the Ogden or the Weber are up at Strawberry or Flaming Gorge or
there you go.
someplace. But
Well,
yeah,
Mark,
I'm not to the point of getting up at 5 and working till 10 o'clock at night anymore. That's
there you go. There you go.
my
Well,
wife.
Mark, I appreciate your time and I appreciate the wisdom you were able to impart to some other people, and I think it's valuable. So thank you very much for being on the What Property Managers Do podcast. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Good talking to you.
Thank you.